Hi and welcome back! In this episode we're going to be installing gutters and downspouts. Typically, houses have gutters at the base of each roof pitch to collect water, and at least one downspout per gutter to carry that water away. I'm going to break down this project into those two pieces, gutters and downspouts, and then join them together at the end. First, I'm going to start with the downspouts. The real house has downspouts that have a profile of 2 inches by 3 inches, so I'm going to start there. I'm going to make each downspout out of sheet metal. In fact, the same sheet metal I made the drip edge out of a few episodes ago. First, I'll transfer all the measurements to the metal. And I'll cut out the downspout blank with my tin snips. When bending sheet metal, order of operations is critical. It's very easy to get yourself into a situation where you cannot make a later fold because it's obstructed by an earlier operation. I worked through this whole process beforehand and ended up realizing that in this scenario I could just go around the perimeter, bending one wall at a time. Easier than I thought. For the second bend, I used a piece of steel as a form to bend around. And as I kept going, I ended up ditching my lines and decided to make the downspout profile square. It might be less accurate to the original house, but it's going to be much easier to manufacture. Once all the bends were done, I knocked out the inner steel form. I'll remove some of the sharp edges with a file. And here's what I ended up with. Now, you might be wondering why I've made so many downspout pieces, and the answer is, I've got a plan. Throughout this whole project, I've built in join lines between all the floors, and this allows me to open up the house and separate them by floors so I can get back inside and do things like decorate the inside, or install furniture, or things like that. I need to make sure the downspouts account for this as well, so I've made more than I need so that I can join them together at the seam line in between the floors. And that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to make a coupler that joins together the top and the bottom half of each downspout so that I can attach it to the house and maintain the separability. Each coupler starts life as, you guessed it, more sheet metal. I'll lay the two downspout pieces I'll be custom fitting this coupler to side by side in the vise. To ensure they're aligned, I'll use that form once again. Now, I'll bend the sheet metal around the pair of downspouts, forming a tight fit. Some carefully placed glue holds the coupler in place. Here's another interesting piece of Downspout hardware. Can you guess what it is? It's a bracket. I'll use these to attach the downspout to the house. This piece of hardware is fully complete, so I'll give it a coat of paint. I would have painted the other bits, but I still have some work left to do on them. I'm really quite pleased with that. That came out pretty well. That's all the work I can do in the downspouts though at this point, so I'm going to move on to the gutters. In order to properly shape each gutter, I need a new tool. I'm going to make a form that I'll use to shape a piece of metal around. This form will be mostly rectangular, with a slightly larger radius along one edge. The form's body will be largely made out of Delrin, a common machining plastic. I think I've got a piece about the right size. I'll mill my piece down to the right size for this gutter geometry. Here's a neat tool that if you have never done any machining, you might not have run across. This is called an edge finder, and I'll use it to zero out the dials on my mill. When the part hits the tool cams out slightly. That cam out point is exactly half the radius of the tool away from the spindle center. I can use this point to zero out the dials on my mill. I'll also perform the same process in the y-axis. Since I have my part located in XY space, I can now precisely position the last piece of its geometry. Inserting a length of metal rod completes the form. The larger radius on one corner will make my gutters a bit more shapely, more closely matching the real thing. To start making the gutters proper, I'll mark, cut, and bend a strip of sheet metal. The process starts very similarly to the way I started out the downspouts. Once I've got the initial bend completed, I'll insert the form I made and form all the rest of the bends around it. This process is again very similar to the downspouts. Lots of hammering and bending to get the metal into shape. drilling a few holes, it's time for paint. I need to make some end caps for each length of gutter. To do this, I'll trace the profile of a gutter on a scrap of metal. I'll add some tabs of the geometry so it'll fit better into the gutter cavity. And I'll bend it into shape. The cap fits into the end of the gutter. I'll file the edges and paint it off camera. Now we're nearly ready to install the gutters. I'll install some little brackets I made, which hook into the gutter geometry and provide me a place to nail the whole assembly to the house. Now to the house. Before installing the gutters, I installed a white painted board underneath. This board covers a subfascia and gives the house a more put together look. I'll tack the gutter into place with nails. And at this point, I thought I'd give it a try to see if it worked. That's a problem. The water shoots right over the gutter. I hadn't considered that. And a solution wasn't coming to me right away. Okay, so it's the next day, and I think I know what I did wrong. The first thing is I think I set my ambitions a little bit too high. When I poured all that water from the top of the roof, it made like a hurricane force water flow, and I don't think any gutter is going to survive that scale or reel. So I'm going to pour the water from a lower distance on the roof, which I think should more accurately reflect what the circumstances I'm trying to model here. Second, I realized that my gutter was too close to the building. Looking at the footage again I took, I saw that the water was really like arcing over the gutter. And really I want the water to arc into the gutter. So to solve this, I'm going to take all the parts I put on yesterday off, and then I'm going to take another one of those white boards and put it behind as a second layer. This is going to offset the gutter away from the house and hopefully make it so that the water arcs into the gutter instead of over top the gutter. In order to fit that secondary board in, I need to bend the drip edge up a little bit so it'll fit. I really built this piece with a tolerance of one board in mind, not two. Now I can install the gutter once again. Wow, with those modifications it seems to work. Finally, the last step is to bend and affix the downspout to the house. I'll use these marks to bend the downspout in the right place. To bend the downspout, I'll cut out a section with a hacksaw and then bend the metal to close up the gap. To fill the gaps left from bending, I'll use some epoxy. After a quick coat of paint, it's ready to install. And here's the finished gutter. Nice! Let's test it out one final time. Sweet, it works as expected. Well, that's all I have for this episode. Overall, while there are definitely some bits I could have improved, I think it came out okay. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. If you're looking for something else to watch, check out this other video in the Model House series. I make miniature, functional windows that open and shut. It was a lot of fun. And if you're a fan of what I do, I'd love it if you subscribed. And to be notified when I release something new, click the bell. Thanks for watching. See you later.